Hey Grinder School, welcome back. This is CodeRed Rules, and I'm going to be replaying some hands here from the latest Grinder School Cash Game series, a full ring event on Lock Poker. We've got 10 hands here to go involved. Most of them are from two players. We'll find out which two players really quick. Alright, so the first one is between myself and Kenny, who I overlimp here against the fish. This is a tactic that I tend to do quite a bit when we're playing against like a really bad player, and I've got like this hand that even though I might get isolated here late in position by someone like Kenny, I'll be able to see first off if the fish will come in beforehand, and as long as the fish comes in beforehand, my play is gonna be profitable. I'm not too worried about it. I also don't want to be isolating him and getting to a situation where I have to play post flop with the fish with a really marginal hand and a raised pot. Now against this type of player, actually got a high fold to c bet stat, so he's the kind of guy you want to isolate and then continuation bet. With a hand like pocket fours, though, I wouldn't be wanting to continuation bet because I'd probably have the best hand most of the time and getting him to fold whatever kind of air that he has. So a little bit trickier to play. If I had pocket sixes or pocket sevens here, I probably would certainly be raising. I love how I said that. Probably be certainly. I'd be certainly raising pocket sevens. So anyway, I overlap it, and then I call the raise, which is fine. As long as the fish called here too, I wouldn't see a problem with it. If it was just me heads up versus Kenny, and the fish folds, I'd have to think twice about calling. It's really hard to play our hand out of position, by the way, in a raised pot. Heads up. So we flop our nuts, and it really. I just have a quick question here on how Kenny's going to be playing his hand. So, by the way, Kenny has pocket jacks with no diamond. So he bets out here, which is actually a pretty decent bet. I like the bet. He's likely to have the best hand right now. He doesn't want to necessarily give free cards to both me and him with the diamond draw out there. So, in all reality, this bet, hey, you know what? I like this bet. It's a good bet. I check raise him though, and the reason why I check raise is, well, I'm trying to go for value. I feel like his betting range is going to be pretty polarized in a situation where he's either going to be calling me with a king, and I can get another sort of value out of him, or he's not going to be calling with anything, right? And the times where he has a weaker hand range than a king, or times he has a flush draw or a straight draw he decides to peel one with, that's a benefit to myself as well. The times that he folds his air, I'm not planning on getting him any. I'm not planning on getting any extra value from air in the future anyway. So I like check raising on most flops, especially in the drawy boards, because it looks pretty bluffy when I check raise a drawy board. At least I can have a flush draw in my hand range. So he calls me with his jacks, which I really don't like. I'm not bluffing really all that. I overlimp and then call to raise and check raise the flop. There's only really two hands I can have in my hand range. That's like the ace high flush draw and a set of fours. Such a narrow hand range. Given these stack sizes, I'm so close. I wish I would have raised a little bit more or on the flop, another 10 cents. It would have given me a pot size bet left. That's kind of besides the point. So I decided to bet half pot here instead and get called. And I'm seeing this river card, and I'm pretty pissed that 4 diamond comes in, and I think about how bad I run for myself. Whereas, in all reality, it's my own fault this river card came in because I didn't set the stacks up right on the flop. If I had only have check raised another 10 cents on the flop, the turn would have been $3.06. I'd have $3 behind. It'd be a very easy turn all in for a pot size bet. That was my mistake. Unfortunately, I didn't lose the hand. Actually, no, I did lose the hand. Damn it. I forgot I lost the hand. Kenny had the pocket jacks, so the biggest mistake, I think, is calling the flop check raise. Calling the turn bet is a little bit better than calling the turn check raise because you now have 11 outs, 20%, and I'm giving you 3-1 in your money. So, it's a slightly losing play on the turn, given your equity, given the odds that you're getting, because you've got no implied odds. Well, I guess if you hit the jack, you've got 2 outs where you get stacks. It's going to be very close to calling here on the turn. But I think the two biggest things that I would take from this hand would be, one, I need to watch my check raise size here on the flop, 10 cents, and Kenny should be folding the pocket jacks to my flop check raise, given that he bet out, try and take that pot down. All right, on to the next hand. You're going to see me folding King Queen offsuit to Pyrotos' open raise because I'm such a nit. I probably could have called there profitably because Pyrotos is such an aggro guy. But playing 4 or 5 tables, I'm not trying. If the fish had called here, I certainly would have called. And if it was suited, I'd probably look into it more. If I were down, I'd probably look into it more, trying to get ahead. So anyway, Pyrotos in this situation has ace-4 diamonds, roughly sick hand. But the biggest problem here is that Snork has like queen 10 offsuit, no diamond. Okay, and funny thing is, people do this more often than you think. More often than you think. They really do. And Snork is actually a Ground Show subscriber, so I think this was his first Ground Show Cash Game series, and it's great to have you on. I'm glad you sent in your hands so I can take a look at them. And this is your first Ground Show Cash Game series. If this is your first GSCS video, I don't tend to hold things back. So, not like I'm trying, I'm not personally, I'm not trying to say you're donk, but donks do this a lot, where they call with absolutely air, no hand, no draw, queen high, out of position. And I mean, there's absolutely no way you're going to be able to make this a profitable strategy for you in the long run because you've got no equity in the hand. All right, if you had diamonds, if you had clubs, you could check raise a couple clubs. I mean, you need to give yourself more than one way to win the hand, and that is either, you just can't win the hand by hitting your cards and hoping that's going to hold up. Okay? And so we called with air on the flop. The queen 10 now has the double gutter, which gives us a reason to call. Okay, now we can call with a double gutter. All right. The only problem is, we are drawing to concealed out. Since we don't have a diamond, actually, we've only got 6 outs because the 7 or 10 of diamonds are action killers to us. We can't call a 4 street, or I'm sorry, the jack of diamonds is a killer for us because we can't call a bet or get any implied odds with a jack. So we really have 6 outs here. 6 outs, 1 street to go. Using the rule of 2 and 4, you've got 12%. You need 12% pot odds. What are you getting? You are getting 2.5 to 1. 6% guys is what? 7 to 1. 7.5 to 1. 8 to 1. 8.5 to 1. Okay, so we need to make an additional 5.5 to 1. 5.5 to 1 is $2. That's not too bad in terms of implied odds here. If it were not the 8 of diamonds, we can count all 4 of our outs. It certainly would be a call. All right, I'm sorry, all 8 of our outs, not 6 of our outs. And then what happens is when we miss, we try to represent the flush comes in, and Pyrotos, obviously because he has the nuts, I mean, he puts to the test. And so think about it this way. All right, you call the flop with absolutely air to call to draw for the turns, open and straight draw, to call for you to waste $1 when you miss your hand. All right, so I mean you're losing a lot of money on this play. In fact, you spent $1.70 and you didn't hit anything, and you get nothing to show for it. Whereas, well, actually, first off, you should have folded pre-flop. That is the first mistake, folding pre-flop. Too many times you guys play hands out of the blinds, and they can take a look at your blinds right now in Hold'em Manager and see how much you're losing. All right, if you're down more than minus 0.3 in the big blind and minus 0.15, is there big blinds per hand, I believe. Then you have a serious leak in your blind play, and this would be one of them where you're just throwing money away because Pyrotos has you crushed in terms of your hand range. All right, on to the next hand. And I'm a nit. I fold 6-8 suited. Well, there's no real efficient in the hand in the play, but I raise this up sometimes in this situation. That's not in this particular hand. We have Snork here. This is actually an interesting hand where Snork has Ace King of Hearts, and Pyrotos has Pocket Jacks. Now, this is a typical like tournament player mentality here to go ahead and just 4-bet jacks, and doing so in a crazy large amount of 4 times 3-bet size, where I don't really like this play at all. Okay, first off, for the 3-bet size from 4 to 9, we need to make from 3 big blinds. We need to make this at least 10 big blinds here. Snork, 40 cents, be a standard raise size. You can make it You can make it 11 or 12 big blinds too if you'd like against a fish. I wouldn't go less than that. For Pyrotos, he definitely has an awkward situation, but he gets bailed out by the fact that Snork made it a small enough raise size where we could call pre-flop and have it be profitable. All right, we're not only we could argue that we're getting quote unquote set odds if our opponents has us beat with queens, kings, or aces. So we have that going for us, and if we're already ahead, then we don't need any odds, right? So if our opponent has ace king here, we already have the best hand, so we're making the best play. If our opponent has pocket aces here, then we're getting the pot odds in order to continue. How do you know which one is which? You don't. You really don't. Actually, I had an argument a couple of years ago in a similar situation where it's like, well, either I have the best hand or I have set odds to outdraw his best hand. You know what I mean? And a hand like pocket jacks and pocket queens is actually very similar in that situation where you either have the best hand or if you don't, you'll probably get a stack if you hit your hand, right? So it's all about how you play it post flop. So if I'm Pyrotos here, I'm actually calling the jacks. I have 4-bet here before, and I'll tell you when it's okay to 4-bet is when you've got somebody with Pyrotos' stats 3-betting in front of you. Okay? So let's say you've got a reg opened. All right, then you've got a guy who's pretty aggressive, who's 3-bets quite a bit. He 3-bets the guy in front of you, and then you're sitting here with ace king or with jacks or with queens, and you don't know what the hell to do, either to call or to 4-bet. And true, it's a very tough spot. Whatever you do, if you're 3-betting or 4-betting rather, you're getting it all in. There's no 4-bet folding with those kind of hands in that situation. Okay. You could call, right? But calling kind of turns your hand face up. But if Pyrotos calls here, it's like, well, he's probably, for me, he's probably got 10s or better or ace king. I mean, it's pretty much face up. But how do you know which one is which? I mean, you don't. Like, if you've got pocket aces over there, and Pyrotos' hand range is 10s through aces, all right, and ace king, and like a jack comes on the board, and Pyrotos check jams it all in, he could have pocket kings, he could have pocket jacks. I mean, there's not much you can do about it. If you've got pocket queens over there, though, as Snork, and you get 4-bet, I mean, cold 4-bet with pocket queens, you're not doing a whole lot. You could probably just go ahead and fold it and you know what I mean, go on the next day. Although in this situation, Pyrotos would have crushed you. So I guess you would have been correct to get it all in with queens pre-flop against Pyrotos, which is probably almost always the case. Zing. All right. So Snork in this instance jams in with the ace-king suited, which is the correct play, and Pyrotos calls it off with the jacks, which is the best play as well after he decides to 4-bet. But I wanted to give you guys my thought process here on what to consider when facing a 3-bet, right, and you have ace-king or jacks in the blinds like this. It's all about who the 3-better is, right? If the 3-better is aggressive, all right, if he's known to 3-bet blind stealers, then the most profitable play for you would be to 4-bet and get it in, rather than try and call and play in position. I feel like calling and playing in position gives your hand the face-up value, and you're going to be more inclined to make a pretty big mistake later in the hand, whereas you could probably make a small plus EV play right now. I'm not going to tell you who won because I'm cruel like that. You should have played the GCS to find out who won. That's how I'm being today. Anyway, we have Kenny versus kind of a fishy player here, 32-12. Here was what our situation is. Let's see here. The pocket aces. Okay, now I remember what I was going to say in the hand. With the stack sizes as they are on the flop, okay, when he decides to get it all in here, he's got 40 big blinds left. Kenny, if I were you, I would probably just go ahead and go all in here, given that there's a flush draw. We're not going to be able to fold the next street, okay, to a bet. And in fact, we risk making a bad play on the next street. Whereas if we check, he checks behind, we give him a free card. Then what do we do? You know what I mean? If the heart comes in, all right. We risk making a bad play here in sake of afraid of running into the nuts. So here's the thing. All right, so he's only got half a stack, and what's great about that is it limits the liability, limits the amount of loss that we could have, limits the minus EV-ness of our shove here. All right, because there's $1 in the pot. He's got $1.60 behind. I mean, with pocket aces, with the ace of hearts, it's a, it's a. I don't even think it's that even close of a play to consider. He's such a short stack. If he were full stacked, this hand plays completely different. But given the fact that he's half stacked here, I would go ahead and get it all in. Because look what happens like when he bets the turn. Okay, he's got 95 cents behind. There's no way we can fold here, guys. Why are we calling this turn in order to fold a river bet? Or are we calling the turn here only to call a river bet? Because the more times you let him bet as compared to letting him call in the situation, because he's a fish, right? Fish players, we want fish to be calling, not to be betting. We want aggressive players to be betting and not calling, right? So we should just be check raising here all in and try and get the rest of the money. As we can see, he did just suck out on us on the turn. There's not much we can do. But once when the third heart comes in and he decides to bet it out, we don't really know. All right, did the flush get there? What happened? We obviously not folding here. Once you realize that you're not folding later in the street, like seriously, what card are we folding here on the turn, given our own hand? I mean, I don't see it. Maybe a 10. 10 might be able to fold, but even then, I mean, it's really close. I think 10 might be the only card, so we don't want to put ourselves in this kind of situation where we're going to be folding. I think the classic easy play there is just go and get on the flop and then you get sucked out on after you get the money in, not the other way around. All right, so in this hand, I'm a nit. I fold 5-7 offsuit, so going to be up against Snork and another reg here on the side, type player. See what goes down. So this little bet right here is where I have a problem with. Snork, I believe, has pocket fours. Yes, okay. He does pocket fours. Now here is the problem with this hand. If you guys see yourself doing this a lot, where you have pocket fours in this scenario, and you think this is a good play, all right, you need to stop doing so immediately, right now. All right, and it's not even be close. All right, and the reason why I'm saying that is because you're throwing money away right here. What are you trying to accomplish with this bet? Are you trying to get Ace King to fold? You want Ace King to call you right now. All right, Ace King has 12% equity against you. That's money in your pocket. All right, you do not want Ace King to fold. You do not want two hearts to fold. You know what you want to fold? You want pocket nines to fold. Right? You know what a problem? A problem is pocket nines isn't going to be folding. So therefore, this is a really bad bet. And if you guys see yourself running into plays like Pocket Jacks, your Pocket Jacks played this perfectly, by the way, on this opponent. He bet the flop as a C-bet, induced a bluff from the smaller pair, and then seeing a showdown, not a whole lot he can do after that. So I think this is a very classic mistake, though, Snork, that you did here at 4-L, and it's something that you can take advantage of a lot of players. People to turn my hands into bluffs, but you gotta stop yourself from doing it. And I think once you realize that's the reason why you're betting here, then you're only going to improve and make more money that way. So I think we're about halfway done, so we're gonna get another 5 hands to go here. I'm a nit again. I fold Ace Queen or Queen 8 offsuit in early position, and we've got two GCSers here. We got Kenny and Pyrotos. Let's see what happens. Okay, I know what I was going to say. I really like the way Kenny played this hand. I really did. Kenny has pocket sixes here. Pyrotos has ace 10. All right, this is the exact same reason why we don't slow play. All right, we don't slow play because we need to get value in the hand. Okay, we don't slow play this turn because we need to get value in the hand. We don't slow play the river. In fact, he bets full pot because there's about 8 cents in rake there. Pyrotos still calls it out because he only has ace 10. I'm sure he didn't have pocket sixes. He had the flush. He has pocket sixes in like the next hand, so don't worry about that. Anyway, so he has the flush here, which is still the same nut hand. I like the fact that he c-bet the flop, he barreled the turn, and given the fact that I've completely messed up this hand review because I thought he had pocket sixes, but he didn't. I think this hand was really well played by you, Kenny. I like your bet sizing on all the streets. You got maximum value you possibly could. Not a whole lot Pyrotos could have done. Pyrotos could have check raised the flop. It probably would have been the best line for him to take, being results oriented, which we're trying not to be. I think even without being result oriented, I think check raising the flop is going to be the best play. You'll get value from any ace. You get value from a lot of flush draws. It's probably going to be the best way to go at that point. Ace 10. So, okay. So here we have an interesting play. So Kenny right here, Pyrotos is Jack 10. I think it's Jack 10 offsuit. Kenny has pocket sixes. So there a while back, you could have a discussion on whether or not you should be re-raising pocket sixes blind versus blind. I'd rather see you re-raise them here and then fold them, but whether or not you'd be better off calling is going to be dependent on who your opponent is. If Pyrotos is one to be double barreling a lot, we can look into his stats right now. He definitely continuation bets. His turn two barreling is some amount. It's going to be really hard for us to show a big profit post flop with this hand. So we could 3-bet sixes. It feels dirty though because sixes is almost too strong, and I feel like Pyrotos is such a weak hand that we can call. We can certainly call profitably. So I probably would go that route. But okay, he 3-bets those hands. That's okay. He decides to not continuation bet here and instead go for a check raise. The whole check raising instead of c-betting routine might work in a single raised pot, but once you start putting a re-raised pot in there, it's just too expensive to even try and do kind of a maneuver. All right, that's problem number one. Problem number two, we have 2 outs. Okay, we shouldn't be bluffing with 2 outs, especially a stack size that is such as ours, where we raise like half of our stack. That's a 52 big blind raise. That's really gross. That's a huge raise. Then look at Pyrotos. Pyrotos with a Jack 10 offsuit jams it in and makes us fold with 2 outs after over half our stack is in the middle of the pot. All right, we should never ever be doing this, guys. When we put half our stack in the middle of the pot and then folding to that point, especially with complete air. We don't want to be doing that. We want to be bluffing a lot smaller percentage of our stack size and have these profitable. And as you can see, it's really hard to do that when Pyrotos bets 15 big blinds into this pot. There's not really an amount where we can be raising, check raising, and have it be a valuable size. And so this is a good example of when not to bluff. When, even if he's just bluffing me here all the time, stack sizes just don't line up. And you can't try and win every single hand. And when the stack sizes don't line up, when the hand doesn't line up, you just have to fold, and you have to learn this when to fold. So on to the next hand here. So I've got 10-8 suited, and I'm a nit, so I'm folding here in middle position. Although even though it's a 0 EV play to fold, I probably could have made a slight profit by raising it up in these tight games. But it's okay folding for me too. And for the most part, you guys should be folding that hand most of the time. So in this hand, Kenny has pocket jacks. All right. And the pocket jacks here should be c-betting. I don't like Kenny's pot size bet in this situation at all. I feel like pot size bet's a little bit too much. On the flop, it's not that bad. All right, Pyros calls. On the turn, though, we're starting to get kind of in the ridiculous territory of just mashing the pot button, whereas a 50, 55 cent bet is going to look a lot better, and we're going to get a lot more action that way. We're not trying to get hands to fold, by the way, guys, when we have pocket jacks here, okay? On the river now, we have to seriously consider our hands that are calling, what hands our opponent has, and how to get value from those hands. So the first thing that I want to look at, okay, Kenny mashed the pot button again, and all right, trying to get value with pocket jacks once the queen hits in the river, not a correct play. What can you do though? Well, if you think that you can get value from betting, then you should be betting. It's just you should be changing the amount that you bet. Should you bet $1? Should you bet $1.50? Should you bet 50 cents? Those are things you should be considering. If it were me, I'm checking the Pyrotos here because I think Pyrotos is a draw a lot of the times. He's got a wide range of hands. I think Pyrotos is willing to bluff me here if I check. All right, when we check, we have to be willing to call pretty much any bet, and that includes a pot size bet. Okay, if we're willing to make a pot size bet for value, we should be willing to call the pot size bet. So I would check here, inducing a bluff from Pyrotos. There's not probably a whole lot of value here in trying to get hands from him in the situation. All right, so a pot size bet on this river though, when the queen comes out, is just too strong. And in fact, this reminds me of you having the nuts. And you're representing the nuts. You don't want to represent the nuts because you have pocket jacks. All right, you want to represent a hand worse than pocket jacks to get value. Right. So we should not always try and represent we have the very best hand possible. Sometimes we want to under-rep our hand to try and get value that way. There's some strategy involved in that too. But Pyrotos folds, as he probably should be. As anybody bets full pot into me 3 streets, I'm just gonna be letting it go for most of the time, unless till I get kind of fed up with it. Then I might call it off once and then feel pretty bad that I called it off. So here we go. We got Kenny and a fish. And this is an instance where Kenny does pot it again. But the reason why this situation is so much better, even though he's only got two big blinds behind, is because Kenny actually has the nuts in this instance. He has pocket sixes. All right, and the only way you're going to get value, not pocket sixes, he has pocket threes. The only way you're going to get value in this instance from this fish is just go pot, pot, pot. I mean, you're trying to get stacks in the middle, you're trying to win a lot of money, and the reason why the pot on the flop and the turn are so good in this instance is because look at this pot size here on the river. He's got like 1 or 2 big blinds over the pot size. If I'm Kenny, I would just go all in and not leave the 2 big blinds behind. This is a clear example of just mashing the pot button, where you should just be able to bring those other 2 back over there real quick, and you'll be just fine. Some players here would bet like 70 cents, and I think that's a mistake. I think Kenny did a good job of setting his stack up to be able to get it all in on the river. So when you do that, get it all in on the river. So I liked your bet sizing here when you had the nuts here, Kenny. So difference between the hand before this one and this one is that one hand you have the nuts, and you're trying to get all the money on the middle by betting pot, pot, pot. The other hand, you have nowhere. You have a very marginal hand. You should not be trying to pot, pot, pot and get stacks in the middle. All right. And I think for more on the topic, it's mostly this topic of stack to pot ratio covers that period, and we've got a couple videos on that. You should check those out. Anyway, here we go. Final hand of the video, guys. As you can see, I'm folding here again. Most of my plays fold. So we got Kenny here called in position, and if there ever was a time to slow play pocket threes, I believe now is the time. All right, because our nit opponent who raised pre-flop decided to check on this board. If our nit opponent has ace-king on this board, we're getting his stack anyway. All right, we can slow play this flop if and only if we're going to get stacks in on the river. You know what I mean? Facing a bet. So Kenny's excessive slow playing has paid off in this instance. It's also very easy, guys, to slow play in position as compared to out of position, because this way we can make up bets more easily when we're in position. So we slow play our nut hand, and our opponent decides to bet out, and Kenny decides to take it one more street, because you know what? If our opponent has the ace, he's probably going to be getting it all in on the river here, and he's going to be betting again. If he doesn't have the ace, we're not going to be getting any more value out of him anyway. So I think the way Kenny is thinking right now is really good, and this is a really good hand to slow play. If, however, this was not like ace 3, if our opponent had bet the flop, I would probably be more willing to raise than I would be to just go ahead and slow play, because when we raise, all right, if our opponent has the ace, he's not folding to a single raise, and so we give ourselves a chance to build a pot earlier. And if he has a hand like ace-king, he's going to get in with us. So we want to get that money in as soon as we possibly can. He's also going to be calling off with like flush draws and stuff. Whereas if he has air, I mean, we might get value from air if he hits a hand on the next street or if he bluffs. But the times he actually has the ace here, I want to get that stack in the middle as soon as I can. So it counteracts the fact that I might get value from air. Because in this instance, given someone who raised preflop with the ace-ace-x on the board, he's going to have that ace a very large percentage of the time. And Kenny waits till the river gets it all in, and man, this time you're thinking, oh man, he must have hit that 10, or the fish must have hit that pocket 10s, but nope, he actually had pocket kings, and this is the exact reason why I tell you guys to go for stacks and go for stacks as much as you can, especially when you hit the nuts, because you don't know what's going to be calling you all in on the river until you go all in on the river and you see what calls you. All right, and I mean it's kind of a circular logic there, but a lot of guys here would just bet You know what I mean? How much would they? How much they would raise? I've seen guys min raise this river, all right, and it cringes the crap out of me because you want to be raising the maximum possible amount you can, and so I'm gonna call. You know what? Right here it was all in, 90 big blind all in, and he gets called by pocket kings, looking like a bluff, and I love that. And I think Kenny played the last two hands here perfectly, so it's a good way for us to end the video. Guys, thanks for watching. Thanks for playing last week, and thanks for fitting in some hands. Let's hope to get some a nice turnout here for the next one coming up in another month. So I'll see you guys then. And talk to you guys later.